Huge news for the Australian reseller community in July. Vinted has finally landed. I signed up for the platform on the first day that it was available and have cross-listed majority of my inventory. And I thought this month I would share what my experience has been like after selling for a month on the platform. So today we are going to get into what Vinted is, the pros and cons, and a full breakdown of my first month selling on there. Let's start with what is Vinted. So if you've been, around the reseller community for a while, you might see posts from international sellers. They might talk about other platforms like Poshmark. Vinted is a UK-based platform. It has previously launched in the US and is now available over here for us Aussies to try to increase some sales. So if you think of it in comparison to some other platforms that are out there, it's probably more similar to something like Depop than it is to eBay. It presents a bit like more of a social media vibe than like a full spec resale platform like eBay, for example. And the marketing I've seen, it's driven more toward casual than professional sellers. At the moment, there's a very large UK customer base. The majority of the people I'm seeing interact with my listings on Vinted are based in the UK, but the presence in Australia is growing. And a lot of that is thanks to the big marketing campaigns. I don't know if you're like me, watching free to air. Vinted is actually being marketed quite a bit on free to air TV at the moment. There are signs up in all the post offices, on parcel lockers if you use them, and online as well, seeing quite a lot of stuff around Vinted. So there is really a push for growth in Australia, which is really, really positive. We really need more options over here, especially after losing Poshmark a couple of years ago. So fingers crossed, with that drive to attract Australian buyers to the platform, it's going to be one that hangs around. So what are the pros of Vinted? Probably the biggest draw card for sellers is that there are no selling fees. Hallelujah. You get to keep more of the sale price, more of your profit stays in your pocket. And it's interesting, I think, the timing of this launch for Vinted in Australia. Obviously, we've also seen Depop remove majority of their seller fees. So it's fantastic news. It's already increasing that kind of competition. It means though that the buyers do pay a small buyer protection fee, but that's all very transparent and included upfront in the listing cost. So there's no surprises when a buyer goes to check out that hey, you might have to pay extra. It's all presented upfront and you don't have to shoulder any of those costs. It's also pretty easy to list, sell and ship on Vinted. It's not as detailed, say, as eBay, where you have a million item specifics that you need to fill out. Again, similar to Depop in that instance, it's quite a simple form. Add your photos and then up and away you go. There is also some inbuilt authentication in the platform where you might have higher value items. So if it's one of those brands that qualify, you'll see it remind you to make sure you're including things like a brand label, a serial number, all of those bits that can help ensure that an item is authentic. Another one of the great things about Vinted is you do have the option to send and receive offers from people who favorite your items on the platform. So I think I've shared it before. I love offers. Most of my sales come from offers. This is something that I definitely consider as, a necessity. I think people like to bargain a bit over pre-loved. So it's good to see that this platform does have that feature inbuilt. Because of the way that shipping works on Vinted as well, that I've seen when listings kind of take a little bit longer than you would expect to arrive, the way that shipping works on the platform is it's not the seller's responsibility to provide a shipping label or anything like that. So the buyer actually purchases and supplies the shipping label through the platform. And then it goes through AusPost APG, which is like their global shipping program. So you get a label. If it's an international sale specifically, you can ship directly to Australian customers. But if you're shipping to the UK, you get a label. It goes to the sorting facility at Chalora, where they will on forward it to the end customer. So what I've seen with that, say, an item is estimated to arrive in 2 weeks. If it gets beyond that 2-week window, there's actually a message that Vinted display that if this item becomes lost and doesn't arrive, they'll actually cover not just the buyer's initial loss, but yours as well. You're covered for the sale price, which I thought was really positive when I saw that. Now, I haven't had anything, touch wood, yet get lost, go missing, not arrive. So I'm interested to see, how that would work if that were to be the case, but positive, I think that it is inbuilt into the platform. successful. I think the other benefit that I've found as a multi-platform seller is that the cross-listing tool that I already use, so I use ListElf, it's a Chrome extension, it used to be called Crosslist Magic. Been using it for years. Vinted was already an option on that one. So it's been really, really easy for me to use that existing tool to be able to cross list and to populate my listings from eBay straight over to Vinted, which is fantastic. You know, it's a simple listing process on Vinted, but it's still a time save for me to be able to copy over majority of that information. So that's all well and good, but we all know that platforms are not perfect. There's always going to be little things that annoy us that we don't love, and for me there probably are a few on Vinted that are worth raising. The first of which, while it's great to be able to send and receive offers, those offers are not binding. So again, very similar to Depop, someone can send you an offer, you can accept their offer, and then they can decide not to pay without penalty. Bit annoying. My mindset around stuff like this is a sale is not a sale until I have a payment. So I already have that mentality, I guess, kind of seeing this type of functionality with Depop where, you know, you can accept an offer and then someone can go on to not pay for it. So it doesn't really bother me so much. But if that's something that you find a little frustrating, well, you're going to find it on Vinted as well. Another con I kind of alluded to was that Vinted is kind of driven more toward personal or casual sellers than it is for businesses and professional resellers. And that is definitely reflected, I think, in the way that the platform has been built. So I think if you're a volume seller, it's definitely something that you need to consider because there's possibly a lot of manual effort that's going to be involved if you're selling on a platform like Vinted and having to manually manage your listings. Say, for example, you know, you've cross-listed, you've got your listing up on eBay, Depop, Vinted, and it sells on one of those other platforms. It's going to be a manual process to remove that. It's very manual to send offers. There's no kind of automation or bulk offer feature. So again, that's a manual task. That's going to be adding time to your day if you are a volume seller. And the other thing, now I haven't experienced this personally, but a lot of the content that I have seen online and the conversations that I've been aware of in like reseller groups around Vinted is that there are some issues if you get picked up as having like a high volume of sales. So it can result in suspensions and bans. Apparently, a lot of the processes that support that are really AI driven. There's not a lot of opportunity for human review of things, and it causes a lot of frustration for people who experience that. So in the UK, I think I've seen conversations around people being shifted into Vinted Pro accounts, which seem to be buggy and not altogether great. I don't know if we have an equivalent like that here. I've not really seen anything around that yet. It's obviously so fresh here. I think the focus is on growing the presence in Australia, but who knows, like it's good to be aware, I think, of some of that in case it may become a future issue. For someone at my scale, so for context, I currently have about 290 active listings. I sell maybe 60 items a month across all of my platforms. I'm probably least risky reseller because the volume's just not going to be there for me to get picked up by any of those things. But if you are selling volume, do your research into it. Just see kind of what's going on, what's out there, what you need to consider to determine if that's going to be a good fit for you and your business. So now that we've talked a little bit about the platform overall, let me share my first month, how it all went, what I thought, how much money I made. Let's dive into it, shall we? I made 10 sales on Vinted in the month of July, my first month selling on the platform. I was really happy with that going in, not really knowing what to expect. And I made a sale like my first day. It was this lovely dog star dress, about $103, I think was the sale price, and it went over to the UK. It was actually my first experience of someone asking me if they could return an item on the platform as well. When the dress turned up, it didn't fit the customer as they had expected it would. And the rules on Vinted are that you do not have to accept a return. It's at the seller's discretion. So because I provide measurements in all of my listings, I declined the return on that one, and that was it. And on that one, even though things weren't, I guess, 100% perfect with that little customer service interaction, The buyer opted not to leave me feedback, but there's automated feedback on the platform. So if your package is delivered with no issues, it arrives and is accepted, and the buyer chooses not to leave you feedback, you automatically get a 5-star automated review, which excellent, I think, when you're trying to build up a presence and a profile on a new platform. We know that that positive feedback is kind of that social proof that you need that, hey, things are going to go well and you can trust this person. So those 10 sales, they made up like 19% of my overall sales for the month. So I think that's, pretty healthy chunk for 1 month in. I'm really interested to see what happens this month now, month 2. From those 10 sales, I made $684. Now that's about 15% of my total revenue. So again, at 15%, that's not insignificant. That's a pretty decent chunk of my sales for the month. So that means my average sale price was about $68. Now that is lower than both Depop and eBay, which sits at $85 for the same month. So you can see there, yes, average sale price, not as strong. So there's probably a bit of focus for me needed there to understand pricing on the platform and how to optimize that a little bit in the coming months. But what I really want to talk about is the difference that having no seller fees made to my underlying profit margin. So this is the one that really matters. This is the one that's going to tell you how much of the money is remaining in my pocket. And I'll do the same comparison. We'll have a bit of a look at what that was on eBay and Depop as well. So the profit margin from my Vinted sales was 80%. 80% profit margin. That to me is insane. I am really, really keen to monitor that at the platform level over the next few months as well and see if that's consistent. I mean, it has to be, right? I guess my cost of goods is really the only other thing we've got to take into effect here because there's no seller fees and no postage costs. 80%. So how does that stack up against the other platforms then? So my profit margin for eBay sales for the month of July was around 48%. Not bad. Not bad at all, but no 80%. Depop was a bit better. Depop was 58%. Again, nowhere near the 80. So I can really, really see a good opportunity with Vinted, with the lack of seller fees, and obviously Depop now removing seller fees. I'm keen to see what that also does to my Depop profit margin over the next few months, but great opportunity here to be making more money if I can continue to grow my sales on the platform. And just for fun, I want to share with you the range of sales that I made on Vinted as well, because again, a lot of the chatter that I've seen is that it's really hard to sell anything for above $10 to $20. And I want to disprove that for you. I mean, obviously it's going to come down to what you're selling, how you're preparing your listings, how you're presenting your items. There are always going to be low ballers. We're never going to escape them, unfortunately. But it's absolutely not the case. You can absolutely make decent sales on Vinted. I mean, my worst sale was this Gorman top. Very, very beautiful. I sold this for about $38 off to the UK. Now, this is something I had listed, I think, for about $49. I typically don't pick up t-shirts, but this was lovely. So for $38 to move it on, I think it went within a day or two of listing. Like, it was a really quick and easy sale and no seller fees. So still decent profit in that. So that was my worst sale on the platform, $38. My best sale on the platform, $129, was this Alkema dress. I pick these up every day of the week. I have a few more listed. This was a full price sale. No offers, no messing around, $129. See you later. So it's absolutely possible. I've made a few sales over the $100 mark. I'm on Vinted now since I've been selling on there. I don't think it's worth buying into it's only possible to do XYZ. I think it really comes back to looking at what's going to sell on the platform, how you're marketing your sales, how you're interacting with low ballers. For me, it's not worth my time negotiating with someone when the gap is this big and we're not going to close it. I don't know, maybe you've had a different experience, and if you have, I would love to hear about it in the comments. But I've managed to dodge any of the issues that I've seen chatted about online since I signed up and started selling on Vinted. So overall, very positive experience for my first month. So what does this all mean? Well, it means even though I made less money on Vinted than I did in total on eBay and Depop, more of the money stayed in my pocket than it did from those other platforms. It also means I think there's a really good opportunity here for growth. I really, really hope that this platform is here to stay. I don't want to see it go the way of Poshmark. So fingers crossed, we'll start to see the presence of more Australian buyers on the site, people who are going to be more familiar, you know, with the brands that we're picking up if we're sourcing locally and listing, so that, you know, it can drive that interest a bit more. But overall, I think it's a good start. I think it's a good start, and I'm very, very hopeful for what the future holds. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, share if you've had a different experience. I'd love to hear about it. I really am interested in seeing if anyone else who has started selling on Vinted has run into any of the issues that there's been a lot of chatter about. I've had a couple of chats with people on Instagram who kind of have seen some issues with bans when they're listing items and that sort of thing, but yeah, it hasn't been my experience. Thank you so much for watching. If you like seeing content about people thrifting items to flip online in Australia, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I'm bringing out new videos regularly, and I hope to see you on the next one.